Good day and good evening and welcome back to Solo Challenge stream with me, Caetsu Chaiji, but you can just call me Kai. Tonight, Yuweyawata Field Station. Try saying that 3 times fast. We haven't done that one before, since it was released in 7.1. Before 7.1, we did Ghost Park and Tender Valley, which I believe the hardest one in all of that was the first boss in Ghost Park, and it wasn't even close. I also recall that on the Teacups boss, there was an interesting thing with me guessing correctly on where to stand on the Teacups very frequently, even though I wasn't actually paying attention. With that, hey Ardell, hey Nox, hey Rovgero, hey Tom, hey Suzaku. Well, I guess Suzaku isn't here, but if you are still here, hope you have a good day. Hey Kiraheen, hey Ceres, hey Lana, hey Gassel, hey Ridlian, hey Sally, hey Jules, hey Agony, hey Kazadragoon, hey Angel, hey Merfolk, hey Faust, hey Caroline, hope you're all doing very well. Right, so last week I mentioned, just for those that are like, usually doing Palace of the Dead here, I mentioned that we've been doing that for quite a while, and I was starting to feel a little bit burned out on that. So we're doing something else. And one of the things we've done before is Solo Challenge, and in this case, we're trying Yuweyawata Field Station. The way that it works, if you wanted to try this too, is current expansion duties do not allow unrestricted parties. Just straight up banned. You can't use it. You can see here, like, I have the settings right, and it just says nope. So the only way you can do this is you round up 3 other players for a dungeon, and you enter the duty. If you have a full pre-made and you're queuing for a specific duty, as in something like this, then it is perfectly safe to leave once you're inside. There is no leaver penalty for doing that. The reason why I'm specifying this is because if you have a full pre-made and you queue for instance, Expert Roulette, then it is not safe to leave. The first person to leave will get the leaver penalty. The reason for that is that if they didn't, then you would be able to cheat by, you know, for instance, queuing for Expert Roulette, and then if you get a dungeon you didn't want, you could all just leave and try again, and then it's not a roulette anymore. So they still penalize you if you try to leave a roulette, even if you have a full pre-made. But if it is a specific duty, then I mean, who cares? If you changed your mind, that's totally cool. You do what you want. So, but the thing is, and this is something I've learned from others, like, doing this, is that sometimes they'll go into Party Finder to look for 3 people to get them inside, is that it's very often that some rando will be like, just use unrestricted party Lamau. So long story short, it is not commonly known that it works this way. So you're going to have to educate some people if you try this through Party Finder. But yeah, that's why we're not doing Palace of the Dead tonight. We've had a little bit enough. We've had enough of that, I feel. I want to do something else. I also got a new shirt. It's very big. Maybe a little large, but maybe it'll shrink a bit when it gets in the wash. Also, hey Emily, Taliban Jason, hope you're doing well. Big shirt, it's very big. Who is this? New Glam, yeah. Solo Black Mage? Oh boy. It's a mix, Rob Gero. The thing is, the good gear is relatively easy to find because the difference between the best gear and the worst gear is relatively small. Relatively being the important word. Like, the best gear is, of course, better. But yes, playing your job correctly tends to make a bigger impact as long as you have good gear. Thank you, Lisa. And also, hey, oh, we have double Jason. Also, hey, Lisa and Jason Wild. Hope you're doing well. And I'm glad to hear that, Jason Wild. Thank you so much. And hey, Walrus. Hope you're doing well as well. And congratulations, Emily. Angel says, I don't think Black Mage can solo. All combat jobs. I'm actually pretty sure all combat jobs and combat classes can solo Sastasha synced. So they can at least do that. At least that much is possible. Now, enough beating around the bush. Let's see, I didn't actually see who came first to my garden. But I need 3 friends. Oh, right. Never mind. So I'll just do a ready check and just explain. The way that we do it is that I queue into the duty. Once we're inside, you can leave, and you're also preferably leave, because as long as you're in the group, I benefit from the party bonus. Which means that even if you were also a tank, I would be 1% stronger than I was meant to be. So preferably we get inside, and then everyone but me leaves, and then we get going. Congratulations, Jason Wild. That's also something I had a lot of fun with when I was playing Blue Mage at first. Was doing dungeons alone, just for the fun of it. So the main concerns in Yuweyawata Field Station is that the first boss technically has a DPS check. Thank you. Look! A ley line for luck. And I don't think the first boss has one, but the second and third boss has stack markers, and let's just say that the tank busters are usually whatever. Like, no one cares about those. Because the stack marker will hurt way more. Let's see if I remember how to do these gigapulls in this way. Your YouTube is struggling. Well, if lowering the quality helped fix it, then it's probably not something that I can do anything about. But that's really annoying. Oh man, these guys have a lot of HP. But we finally run out of cooldowns. We finally ran out of defensives. I have to run now. Hey, Glulja. Oh, Damnation is ready again. We lasted so long that my cooldowns almost reset. Is there a reason I'm moving out around so much? You see, every time the enemies take a step towards me, it's because they weren't in range to attack me. So by me stepping away from a mob, when I'm not ready to attack it, I waste its time and slow its swing time, or like I delay its auto attack by maybe half a second or a quarter of a second, and it all adds up in the long run. So it is about taking less damage, yes. It's a very small thing, and it's free. Hey, look out the magic! Nope, you're doing well. That is very easy. Surprisingly easy. I say, considering I was down to like 1 second away from death at one point, waiting for bloodwetting instead of running away. Ow. Mobs a TF2 sentry. Change my mind. I don't know. The thing, whatever the case, is that the way mobs work is that they don't actually check if they're in range to attack you until they actually need to deliver an attack. So if you step away, you waste a ton of time for them. Hey fella, hope you're doing well. Oh nice, a crit. Yeah, pretty much, Zarian. Kind of, except like theirs are just auto attacks. But kind of, yeah. Imagine if mobs stepped away from you like this. Could you imagine how annoying that would be? Hey, Gleaming. Hope you're doing well. And the reason why I step away with full health like this is because sometimes the mobs will get a swing in, even with sprint. So it's just not worth the risk in case they get something. Like that. Some of them seem to have tank busters, I think. Or maybe they were just lucky. Or all of the hits smashed together, making it look like more. It tastes like more. And I feel like this pack is also significantly stronger than the previous one, given that they're living even longer. So what I'm thinking I'll do for the first boss is I will probably stall a bit on my attacks. I'll probably use Inner Release in the opener, but I'll probably make sure I sit on one Infuriate, because I don't know how much it matters, the DPS check. I don't know, Fala. There's a very high possibility that it is partly related to who your healer is. This looks like doing it with NPCs. It's probably not that far off, although it's a little slower. Took us nearly 8 minutes or so to actually get to this point. Ugh. That probably won't matter. It didn't hit through Bloodwetting. That's not a lot of damage. Ow. Oh, I expected that to do way more damage. It put Magic Vuln on me. Well then. Yeah, indeed. Huh. Weird. Yeah, exactly, Jules. See, the thing is, with those kinds of mechanics, it's like a toss-up. Sometimes it'll do, it'll just straight up kill you for failing the mechanic. And sometimes it's this, where it doesn't matter. Is Moquicker still the best food for casters? Well, it's the best food for I think jobs that like crit, which is most jobs. So I think like if your job likes some weird stat combo, then maybe. I mean, generally Moquicker is fine. There's some exceptions. Hey, Agent Monica. Hope you're doing well. A baked eggplant was, I think, last expansion? But yeah, it's basically the same idea. You know what's going to be real funny? This boss is going to run out of cabers to toss. I wonder what it'll do then. The magic won't disappear before the raid wide? Oh. Well, that's boring. That's a shame. Oh! I think there's one left. You're gonna caper toss that one, buddy? Raid wide? Oh, just a raid wide. Oh. Hey, Catfish Jr. Hope you're doing well. And also, he's off. Hope you're doing well as well. It is interesting with these bosses that use something from the environment. That they can genuinely run out of things. By design. There'll be nothing left but a smoking crater! Raid wide? Ah, yes, a raid wide. I imagine that the next boss will be a lot harder, because I'm pretty sure that he cycles a stack marker. Take this and that and one of these. The the stack marker from the first boss in Juno, right? Hey, free live free. Hope you're doing well. I feel like the boss is putting slightly more pressure on me now that it isn't wasting time on caber toss. Considering I actually used other cooldowns just to maintain my HP. That's a funny thing that sometimes happens with these bosses, is that once they're actually done with all their nonsense, they actually get stronger because they no longer waste time on stuff that you can dodge. I would estimate that your average group would already have completed the dungeon by now, 15 minutes in. Maybe that's a little bit of a highball estimate, but I would say it's pretty close. Hey, Cruises, hope you're doing well. Warrior Soul, yeah. Yeah, the auto attack seems to hurt a lot. That's true. Your average group would be on the second pull of the final boss about now. Is it that common to wipe to the last boss? That sounds like fun, Jason Wild. I'm pretty sure my Blue Mage build is also just oops all speed. It's a lot better for when you're using the meme options, like the meme tools, like the weird ones with the after, like the side effect being what matters and not the potency. Like, you know, if you're casting Missile, it's really good. Thank you, Lisa. Rob Guerrero says, is Warrior your favorite tank as you played a lot in your videos, especially in Mentor Roulette? Maybe in the older ones. Nowadays, I can't really, like right now, I can't really play Warrior that often in Mentor Roulette because we're mixing it up. But Warrior is basically my main, and a big part of it is the way that it plays that I enjoy. So you could say that, yes. I really like Paladin as well. Hey, Malediction. Hope you're doing well. Oh boy, it's a little spooky. This pack does more damage than the last one. Oh! I actually accidentally killed one of the mobs early. Whoops. And because they pressured me, my cooldowns aren't quite ready yet. Maybe I should have used Rampart there first. Yeah, well. Damnation is the one that is actually going to make more of a difference, I think. There is a trick to if you're having trouble with the pointer. There's a trick to it. If you just mash a movement button while like the cursor's spinning, it only spins when you're not moving, right? So if you just mash forward, then it'll you will move a little bit forward in whatever direction the cursor's pointing, but because it's only spinning when you're not moving, by essentially making so you're moving about half the time, you slow it to half speed. You can also tap slower to make it turn even slower, but the general idea is there. Half the time I Icarus to a safe person, that's also something you could do. Usually I'm the safe person people would Icarus or Ethereal Manip too. So, you know, someone has to do it. Hey cat, hope you're doing well. Oh, we killed one off again. It's probably fine. The enemies are pressuring me enough that I don't mind getting rid of a few mobs on the way, but this, like, switching which target you're focusing on can help make sure the whole pack is alive for longer, which can be handy to maximize your DPS. And in the case of Bloodwetting, if there's not many mobs, it can sometimes be nice if the mobs you're fighting are really strong. Like, sometimes it's better that they're more alive so you can heal faster. On the other hand, reducing the amount of enemies hitting you could also help. So the scary part on this next boss is specifically its stack marker. I'm pretty sure it uses it frequently. Took us 24 minutes to get to this point. And because of the simple threat of a stack marker, I basically can't use something like Damnation on anything but the stack marker. Which, of course, in a way makes the tank buster a little scarier. This part is pretty free, because you're spending a lot of time on mechanics that don't hurt me. I think I should hold my inner release. Hey Rost, hope you're doing well. What always concerns me with that mechanic is that like the game is like, nope, you were 1 pixel off and then I die, even though I did everything right. I think I've seen people experience that, and that just sucks. Oh, I expected that to do way more damage. Oh well. Still pretty sure that... Oh, perfect! Yes, give me the tank buster while Damnation still lasts. Yes. Double value. Thank you. That's the worst thing you could possibly do, man. Well, we haven't even beaten a third of him yet. And he's pretty much gone through everything he'd normally use on a normal pull of this guy. Stonks. Yeah. Big value. It doesn't do as much damage as I expected, but it's also coming more frequently than I expected. It's about every minute. It's 70% start repeating. Yeah, that is pretty classic solo stuff. In fairness, because of the part where you can't attack him, it feels like you didn't get... Like, it feels like more. Something that makes the pressure of this boss a little rougher is that the things that that normally you just get through by, oh, he's wasting his time casting a thing I can dodge, is accompanied by a raid wipe that hurts a decent amount. So it's not like when he casts Free Spirits, even though I can dodge the whole thing, it isn't like completely wasted efforts on his end. Hey, Elstake. Hope you're doing well. And, Don't Be Crumpet. Hope you're doing well. Less than 40% left. Well, this is gonna hurt. For some reason, I decided to use Rampart a little early. One-fourth left. And the good news with the bosses that have downtime like that is that they're usually like packaged with a lot less HP. So like a normal group will like feel like they didn't waste, like lose time as a result. But when you're alone, that less HP just means that like you had 3 invisible players doing a ton of damage. Like, just off-screen players that aren't there. And it's that he doesn't do his hardest mechanic more than once. And that's actually a really common revelation with dungeon bosses, is that they have, like, this big mechanic, but they only do it like the amount of times that the average group will see most of the time. Like a particularly funny one I remember was Anamnesis and Ida back in Shadowbringers. That it has this thing with ads coming out of grates, but it only does that mechanic twice in total. Which, like, that mechanic is what would make it impossible to solo it. But that mechanic only happens twice, and it is survivable if it's only twice. Like, it's enough to really put a warrior on their back foot. But if the boss doesn't keep doing it, there's no way that the warrior is gonna lose. It can break through. Which is a little bit of a shame, I remember. I was like, I don't think I can do this, and then the boss just stopped doing the hard mechanic. "33 minutes. And there's one boss left. These packs are always awkward with how they shuffle away from each other. Even when you can center your attacks on yourself like this. They're also quite strong. Yeah, also, if any of you are like healer mains that like, if you're a healer main that haven't like, I guess, tried a tank, so you don't quite know how like the tank perspective of this looks. Envision this when you do a dungeon like this, and you have a solid warrior as your tank. Like, if you ever needed some reassurance that it'll be fine. Like, I'm just working my way through my cooldowns and it's kinda fine. Now I'm stepping away a little bit. Like, this is something you wouldn't see with like a real group, like the tank stepping away. But the rest is like, that's straight up what a tank, like what a warrior at least, can do. Just out the box. I wish any warrior would let excogitation go. The funny thing there... Oh, there's some of them that are ranged. That is actually a huge problem for me. I should have stepped away way sooner. I forgot about that. Say clarity. Hope you're doing well. I would say if you have a warrior, or a tank for that matter, who's clearly not letting your excogitation pop, you can either evaluate that you don't need to use it, or you could evaluate that... that maybe you're using it too early, for instance. Even though, like, it's excog. What do you mean too early, right? Some warriors will view your excog as insurance. That is to say, they'll play more greedy as long as your excog lasts. If you're using it anyway. But they won't let it pop. Because as long as it lasts, they're safe. They know they have like a backup. So it doesn't go to waste. They're just playing in a different way. Now the question is whether they need to play greedy. And the answer is probably no. But yeah, if you put excog on the tank and they generally don't let it pop, there's a probability that you can just not use it. Like, as in, you could get away with not using excog, and then you can save that ether flow for something else. Ada energy drain. Hey, Liv and Bjerk. Hope you're doing well. It's from recitation. Oh. I don't know. You could use Adloquium with that recitation, I guess. But in that case, at least you're generating some fairy gauge. Kaboom! Are there ranged boys in the last pull here? I don't think there is. Wait, no, those are ranged. Good to know. I should prioritize them. That's the thing, really, is that the one thing that can suddenly, out of nowhere, halt my advance here is if a ranged mob just chases me down the street while I'm out of cooldowns. So if I should randomly kill off a mob early, preferably it's a ranged mob. Remember to pet the bunny? I will try to remember. Right, because they're just full-on magic, they don't get slowed by arm's length. That is a minor issue. I will try and save my equilibrium as an emergency button. Like so. Even if I could step in and use bloodwetting, I might not actually receive the healing in time. Hey, Caffeine! Hope you're doing well. I like to blow all my mitigation on bigger shields to shake it off. I mean, if you don't need the mitigation for yourself, it's alright. But the increased shield is, like, it's very small of an increase. It's really not worth it. Unless, like, you're not getting hit anyway. In my opinion, Romgero, all jobs are good. The job got some bad change. I mean, Dark Knight has been receiving some pretty amazing buffs recently. So, on that alone, it's really good. Like, it's pretty solid. Now, the question is whether you think it's fun. That's the bigger issue. If you think it's fun, then Dark Knight is really strong right now, actually. But yeah, the important part is that you enjoy it. How's it, Jelga? Hope you're doing well. That's the right takeaway from it, Jason Wild. If you don't like it, then it doesn't matter that it's really good. K. Roland says, can you solo this with Dark Knight? I don't know. I'm testing whether it's possible with Warrior. It seems to be pretty promising, but I don't know if Dark Knight could do it. I would guess that they might be able to. Especially with the, like, changes that have added more self-healing. But they would probably have a much harder time than Paladin. Pet the bunny and take a picture of bunny. It looks ferocious. Hey, Li Chao, hope you're doing well. We'll pet him again. Can this bunny use headgear? Could you imagine if it could? He pets back. He's petting a little hard. These are very, very nice configurations of that mechanic, I have to say. A big wide space for me to stand in. It's a little scary. A single Vuln stack can actually be threatening enough that suddenly I'll have trouble for 2+ minutes. Hey Cyanide, hope you're doing well. I'm just gonna step out early. Here comes the hard part. Oof. Oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought. I don't think that can one-shot me. Like, legitimately, I don't think that can one-shot me. It didn't even do half with just Damnation. Does the AoE always move in the direction the boss is facing? I don't know. Let's try and pay attention to it this next time. No, that one came out from the back. Hey, Midichlorian, hope you're doing well. Something that really weakens the Tank Buster here is that it's a minute apart. So I can use Equilibrium after every single one, which means that it doesn't matter that much. I should also use Reprisal more. This is actually getting down to the wire. Hey D-Doc, hope you're doing well. This is a 4-man dungeon. Looks like he's slightly off there. It's weird. Less than a third. Wait, what? Did my combo end? Whoops. Awkward. Hey, Fila. Hope you're doing well. And yep. It's taking a while. He's wasting a lot of time for me. This is gonna hurt. Yowzers! This boss looks doable on Dark Knight? Maybe. The fact that TBN will be available so frequently could at least help significantly. which is better, Bloodwetting or TBN. On its own, like if you have no other cooldowns, I'm pretty sure Bloodwetting's just the raw damage reduction of it combined with the barrier is the better of the two. But in conjunction with other stuff, TBN probably has the lead. Ishtav, hope you're doing well. TBN is the best off-tank mid. I would say that Intervention is the best off-tank mitigation. It's particularly amazing because if you have a double tank buster or something, the Paladin can actually mid both players as well. Like that even adds even more to it. Like Intervention is insanely strong. I'm pretty sure this is the last loop. Which means that it is a pretty massive problem for Lunipiati here that I have Omgang available. That's correct, Fila. And finish it with a heavy swing. Dunk. The answer is yes. And we even got the music. Yeah, did you know that Warrior can solo Yuweyawata Field Station synced? It's pretty hard. I don't know if I'm surprised. The thing that was the most scary was exactly what I anticipated would be the most scary. How much time did it take? About 57 minutes. About 57 minutes. And by the way, if I remember correctly, we reached the trash leading up to this boss after 36 minutes. So, like, the trash and this boss took, like, 21 minutes. Matthew says soloing dungeons at 80 plus isn't really surprising. That's true. It's, the thing is, what makes it scary is how frequently they do things. Like, if the threatening mechanic takes like 4 minutes to come around, that's incredibly unlikely. But if it did, then a warrior would just be like, like, who cares? I'll just Holmgang. If it takes 2 minutes to come around, then the warrior again will just be like, yeah, I'll just Damnation. And if it's every minute, that's when it starts to get a little scary, because the warrior can only Damnation every second time, and they'll probably have to rampart the other one, and if the sustained damage of the boss is high enough, the warrior may feel compelled to use Bloodwetting on cooldown just to survive, and that means that they basically don't have bloodwetting for mitigation purposes because they need it for healing purposes. But then again, if the scary thing is every minute, they can use equilibrium every minute. And that's what happened here. The tank buster came about every minute, so I just used it, like I could heal up after a thing every minute, which meant that I could more easily take eating a mechanic straight to the face without any mitigation. Yeah, so this guy is feeding the healer strike community. Am I really? You engage the boss at 48 minutes. So this boss took like 16 minutes on its own. Peter says, is that still ongoing? I think it got like flared up again when there was this somewhat recent ultimate FRU clear with no healers. I wonder why there isn't any DPS strike. Good question. But yeah, about an hour to do this. There's a flank sting strike. I'll say, bastard. Hope you're doing well. Because DPS still allows fights to be much quicker. Alberto says, can't wait to hear the next Did You Know. That's actually a thing, is that sometimes, I think I've seen this for Yuweyawata Field Station, where people have been saying, when I don't mention it, that can you not solo Yuweyawata Field Station or something to that effect, and the reason why I don't mention it is because I pretty much only mention that Warrior can solo something synced if I did it, or if I know for certain someone did it, so that I don't, like, make up nonsense. There's not going to be a, I'm pretty sure they can, and then I just present that. I'll test it. To be fair, it's kinda only doable while soloing with Warrior. I'm pretty sure that Paladin would be able to do this too. But they would probably be a lot tighter on time. We actually, it wasn't on a live stream or anything, but we had a little bit of a discussion back when I did the other Dawntrail dungeons of, could we demonstrate the capacity of soloing Dawntrail dungeons of every tank? But do we need to do all of the dungeons to demonstrate that? And the test became Vorkozormor. And if I remember correctly, Dark Knight didn't have the self-sustain to survive the final boss. But that was before the 7.1 changes, so maybe Dark Knight can now. But the thing that typically comes up in terms of soloing dungeons is that Warrior, among all the tanks, has the capacity to do the Gigapulse, like as if they had a group, and just plow through anyway. And Paladin can usually do it, but they will often need clemency, which means that they'll do a lot less damage. They'll be a lot more tight on the timer, which is a little bit reminiscent of Palace of the Dead, which some of you will be more experienced with. And Gunbreaker, I'm not sure. I'm guessing they might have to use Brutal Shell. If they do, that'll massively impact their like uptime of damage, or at least their DPS. And Dark Knight, essentially, at worst, may be forced to not use AoE or Blood Gauge spenders, because they need to do 1-2-3 combos to heal. Hey, Casey Cake? I don't mind. Like, I'm glad to hear that. Thank you. And yes, Jason Wild, we did it. It took about 57 minutes. Now, we actually have a lot of time left. I expected it to get a lot closer. I don't know why. I'm pretty sure both Ghost Park and Tender Valley took about an hour as well. And I didn't even have full, kinda best in slot at that time. The healing from the blade combo on Paladin is a big thing. That is true, but consider the following. The full blades combo, including Confiteor, heals for about 1600 potency. Warrior's Bloodwedding heals for 400 potency per target. Paladin is a lot more of an even match with Warrior on bosses. A lot more of an even match. In fact, Paladin would have the colossal advantage on the final boss here, that Paladin would be able to, use a Holy Sheltron whenever they hit full gauge, and then, just hold the other one for when they need to mitigate, and things like that. They don't lose as much by sitting on the quote-unquote cooldown, as it were, whereas Warriors actively losing healing while they sit on Bloodwedding. Now the solo Susano, minimum item level, no echo. No. Nope. I just want to be clear that for those that know that one through Wrath games, when he started his journey, I made a video saying that it wasn't possible to finish because Susano is not soloable. It since became soloable. But that, I believe, is part of the reason why it was such a huge milestone. He probably already knew without me telling it, but I was there very early saying it can't be done because of Susano, so I'm not going to start trying at minimum item level no echo. I knew it all along. The best part about the blade combo is that it does absolutely cracked AoE damage. For Paladin to clear the packs faster than Warrior, Paladin would need to be able to stay in melee range longer than Warrior, and Warrior's Bloodwedding massively increases the time Warrior can stay in melee range, so Paladin gains damage while they're running away. Possibly, if Requiescat happens to align with that. Warrior massively gains damage while they stay in melee range, and as you saw, on most AoE packs, I had to run away for 10 seconds, maybe 20. Paladin on the last boss would indeed also be able to keep up the pressure more, because they would be able to Holy Spirit a bit better in that final fight. But what do we try now? So, in the case that we finished early, with quote-unquote time to spare, my plan was to either try soloing one of the current raid tier bosses on normal. Savage is not soloable. I think M1N is soloable. Alternatively, the alternative would be, I don't know, I think Halatali got reworked in 7.1, but that is definitely soloable by a Gunbreaker. But to get inside, I would need 7 friends. And right now, I have 4. So, let's see, can I actually round up 7 people in EU? Just to be clear, to be friend to help. You could run a full party and then they leave with the last boss. You could do a Paladin comparison. I could do that stuff, but I feel like I set out to do what I wanted to do with Yuweyawata. But that is a good point. I feel like it wouldn't be shocking that Paladin can also do it. Yeah, if you have a character on EU that has M1N unlocked, of course, we are here. But I will be right back, and then we will try it. In the meantime, sanity restored. Alright, I'm back. Oh. Oh, we have 8. I'll just explain again. Oh wait, if Angel is fishing, how about we let Angel keep fishing uninterrupted, like this. So I'll explain again. Since we beat Yuweyawata Field Station, which was what we set out to do, now I needed a full party. We have the full party now, by the way. Thank you, everyone. To enter M1N, which is Black Cat, to try and solo that. My expectation is, I think she has a stack marker at some point. But I'm pretty sure that's survivable. Now the question is how many cooldowns I will need for that. I'm also very curious what will happen when she does the uppercut. Will she just smack me 4 times? Rob Guerrero says, what is with these M1N names? In Final Fantasy XIV, for whatever reason, we have decided to name raid bosses in the raid tiers after a letter in the duty, the number of the duty. So the first fight is 1, the first fight in the second tier would be 5, and the first fight in the third tier would be 9. Usually. And then we add either N for normal or S for savage. In a similar way, we also kind of cover up spoilers for trials in a given expansion by saying the current expansion's extremes are usually referred to as Extreme 1, Extreme 2, Extreme 3, and so on. So we don't even name the duty. Like, we don't even name what it is. We don't talk about what it is. So we avoid that. So that's part of the reason. The reason why it is called M in this case is because it it says there. It's right there. And it is M1 to 4. Now the question is whether the second raid tier will also say M1 to 4, and then we'll see what happens. But that's the reason why we refer to the Bahamut raid as turn 1 to 13. Alexander is referred to as A1 to 12. Omega is referred to as O1 to 12. Eden is referred to as E1 to 12. And Pandemonium is referred to as P1 to 12. Indeed, people suggested R before we settled on M. But yeah, there are some stack markers. That's what we have to worry about. Now the question is how frequently those stack markers come up. If they come up every 2 minutes, possibly easy game. I believe it is, Casey. But I imagine the challenge is actually not going to be surviving the fight. The challenge is that there's 90 minutes. So just reiterating, the way it works is we get inside. As soon as we're in, you can safely leave because we're a full pre-made. And preferably you do, because otherwise you might, you know, take mechanics. And it also gives the party bonus. Matthew Park says, I'd love a raid lingo video. I actually have one in the works, but it doesn't cover that stuff. It covers more mechanical stuff. And a lot of the raid lingo that you suggested there will be like, that's something that is like, skip cats is of course skip raiding cats, which is a specific mechanic. Herald strats, I'm guessing, well, obviously specific strategy. For some reason, my brain is getting confused. Let's see. It would probably be Hector strats, and that's just because there's a specific person called Hector who makes those strats. And no cheese, it would probably suggest that there is a classic strategy. That cheeses something, like for instance, using tank invulns to cheese a tank buster. Can I eat from here? No, I cannot. But yeah, I have a video on some raid lingo in the works. Thank you, everyone. Just to be clear, you do have to leave. Thank you.
I hope you're ready to be ripped to shreds.
Our challenger's first opponent, Black Cat. Can they hold their own against our feline ferocity?
No worries. I was just making sure that there wasn't someone like, can I not just be on the floor here?
I sharpened these just for you.
This is going to take a long time.
Beautifully dodged.
Can you dodge this, I wonder?
I probably can.
Try this.
Oh man, that's a strong stack marker. That was 120,000 with Rampart and Damnation and I think Blood Wedding.
Here it comes. Black Cat's lithe and lethal maneuver. stay with us while we repair the ring.
So now I guess we have to hope that she doesn't do that too frequently.
Going up.
Hey Perrin, hope you're doing well. Oh! Fun game of Yeet the Lizard. I think she was very confused. She only tossed me twice.
I'll gut you like a cod.
Well, the good news...
You're mincemeat.
The good news is that she does not use her stack marker very often. Hey Shaq, hope you're doing well. Yep.
Amazing! The challenger saw straight through it!
Whew boy. That is a stack marker. Like now, that is a stack marker.
These claws rend all.
How'd the dungeon go? We beat it in 57 minutes.
To me, echo of my soul.
Oh, that's going to be really annoying. And that also reminds me, I think there's something else. That's it. 300,000 damage. Ow. She'll do 4 of them. Oh. There was a little hope for me that I was thinking maybe she would get confused by the fact that like I'm busy doing something else, like getting smacked. So maybe it would have worked. But if she does 4 of them, they're spaced out too far to use Holmgang on them. And on all of them. And it takes more than just damnation. You only get 2 of each. That could be. Exactly, Stab. It was 1 of each, or two knockups, so that would make sense. So it's very likely she'll do 2 of them. But from what I can see here, I don't have enough to actually, like, even if she just does 2 of them, I don't think I can do more than that. Like, the thing is, she did like 190,000 damage. I might be able to survive it. Like, if you look at my HP, I might be able to survive it. But can Warrior Duo M1 in? Vitality pots? See, that's what I mean, is that it did 190k, but the reason why it didn't survive is because it didn't manage to heal enough. Kitchen Sink the first and Home the second. The reason why I used Home on the first one, I believe, was because Damnation wasn't ready. And you might then say, well, just make sure that Damnation is ready. I used that for a stack marker earlier. So I think she will do this too frequently. Does she not? Like, I can't remember if I've been on this fight. Casey says, what does it mean to kitchen sink something? It means to use every single defensive cooldown you have. It's a shorthand for everything but the kitchen sink. The kitchen sink being your invuln. Normal raid countdown. That would be a little weird. Guardian is so busted that it might be able to more effectively take these massive hits. Did you stack Reprisal with the other mids? Yes, I did. I don't recall. I mean, you can rewind the stream if you want to see, but I'm pretty sure I used Reprisal there at the end as well. The problem being that she's putting too much pressure on. But yeah, the only way it would work is that you use all the defenses for the first hit, and then the second hit where you can't heal up in time, you use Holmgang. But I don't think I have enough mitigation to survive the first of those 2 stack markers. Does she not... Like, the thing is, if she only did that combo once, then we might be able to do it. But I'm pretty sure that throughout the fight, she'll loop back to that combo again and again. And given the speed, my quick estimate was that we were doing about 2% per minute. With a full group, she does it twice. Yeah, exactly. Worst case, you need 7 dead friends to get tank LB for it. That is pretty funny. Grade 2 gem drops of vitality. How much? That increases my HP by like 8%. Yeah, in that case, Ilana, if she does that mechanic twice, like if she loops that twice, then we can pretty much assume that she's going to loop it as many times as it takes. And she will also continue to do the circle stack marker while she does that. Plus food. I have food. I already have food. Are you using a high tenacity set? I'm not. Part of the problem is that a high tenacity set would also lower my item level, because there just aren't tenacity on all pieces at maximum item level. So that might not actually help. Caetsu stacked at 192, you were at 191. Ah. Ah. That is rough. That means I could have maybe have survived if I had done like a Storm's Path or something. I wonder if you could take the stack with Shake and Thrill. No. Thank you, Stav. We found that the stack did over 300k raw, because I specifically used Holmgang to check. And Shake with Thrill would be less than that. With a full team, she does the stack like 4 times. Yeah, exactly. It seems that the phases where she knocks me up, she will alternate between knocking you into the sky and doing a stack. Throw in Reprisal or Bloodwedding. I'll try one more time, just to try give it another go. Just to see what we have to work with, now that I know what I'm expecting to see.
Our challenger's first opponent, Black Cat. Can they hold their own against our feline ferocity?
I sharpened these just for you.
But at least from what I can tell, it does not look very possible.
Beautifully dodged.
Spray her with a water bottle. Aha!
Can you dodge this, I wonder?
How much is it? The line stacks are 308,000 damage, approximately. That's why I used Holmgang, to check how much damage it was gonna do. Oh, what? I think it snapshotted early. Because I don't think Damnation was in that. You know what, let's go again. I'll see how much damage that does without a defensive cooldown.
Our challenger's first opponent, Black Cat. Can they hold their own against our feline ferocity?
Just so that we know what we're working with.
Just for you.
At least it's not very far into the fight.
Beautifully dodged.
Can you dodge this, I wonder?
I'll just use Holmgang here. 360,000.
These claws rendle!
Here it comes. Black Cat's lithe and lethal maneuver. My ring! Please bear with us while we repair the ring.
Going up!
That's correct, Strat. That is actually also why I used Rampart the way that I did. Now here's the problem that I need Blood Wedding to heal myself with.
I'll gut you like a cod!
Can you use Erika Alto's regen potions outside of Erika Alto's? No. Could you imagine if you could?
You're mincemeat!
I actually, for some reason, assumed that the stack marker was coming already now.
Amazing! The challenger saw straight through it!
It's so much damage.
These claws rendle!
I'm pretty sure this one was safe.
To me, echo of my soul!
Well, we have a completely different problem, I think. Maybe.
echo of my soul.
Mr. Heal there. $260,000. I didn't have any more. From what I can see here, I don't think Warrior can do it. There's too many. There's way too many of those stack markers. Just to clarify, the circle one does 360,000 damage, give or take, in full best in slot. Except I don't have the chaotic chest piece, so I have a little bit of tenacity from that. And the line stack does 300,000 and a bit, like 308,000. So like it's way too many. And it's like early in the fight it's one circle, then a little bit later it's one circle, and then very shortly after it's double line. And then there's a little bit of a break, but there's tank busters. And those, like, they're not stack markers, but given that you need basically all of your defensive cooldowns to survive the stack markers, you just have to take the tank busters almost raw, like just straight in your face with very minimal defensives, and those are not those are barely survivable too. So I don't think Warrior can do it. I don't know if Paladin can do it, but I don't know if I'm actually like experienced enough with Paladin soloing to actually do it with Paladin. I also have a slightly worse weapon on Paladin, but it's certainly not doable with Warrior. Hey Ham, hope you're doing well. That's a good point, Ilana. We don't know if she keeps doing it. Erdal said in Free Company chat that someone has done it with Paladin, so apparently there is the evidence that Paladin can do it already. Oh, also I have this. I just want to point out here, there is a chance. If the sticker goes there and the sticker goes there, we could have 3. There's still a chance for 2. And the probability of 1 is pretty high. Azalea and Zippo and Darth. Oh, you're doing well. Do parry or block apply to stack markers? Block would. Parry maybe if it's a physical attack. So the question is whether we try that with Paladin. I don't think I can do it. Or we try something else. Solo something else. Yeah, 1 in 4 to get 1 line. 1, 2. There's those 2 and that one. maybe M2, it has less stacks. I mean, it has the towers that will always explode. I think the third boss has a multi-stack. Also, hey, Flo and Peter. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, we did we finished Yuweyawata Flow, but the good news is that the stream is like something you can rewind in if you want to see it, and it'll stay up as a VOD. So you didn't quite miss it. We finished in 57 minutes. And the final boss was definitely the hardest part. M4 will enrage will tell you. Yeah, exactly. There's also like the semi-regular multi-stacks on M4. I think among the four, how often does Brute Bomber do stack markers? And isn't it a multi-stack? I'm pretty sure it's a multi-stack. Or is it a single stack? A single stack before it juices himself up. Does it become a multi-stack then? Then the question is still, how often does he do it? Because I could imagine such a multi-stack might require invuln. Oh yeah, he has towers that explode as well. They would probably give vuln stacks if not dealt with. And then we die. Eureka Authors. Well, I mean, Caroline, I haven't soloed any of the deep dungeons. That seems like a little bit of a leap. I haven't even maxed out in Eureka Authors. I haven't even done it in a light party. A particular AR extreme you particularly enjoy? Among all of them, I actually think that Ultima's Bane is quite entertaining. Because by its design, it becomes a lot more frantic if everyone's doing maximum damage. Mechanically, it gets easier the slower your damage is. Matthew Parks says, I have a dumb potency question. If I have a GCD that does 600 potency, is that damage-wise, excluding crit chance, equal to two 300 potency GCDs? Yes. Assuming that the 600 potency thing and the 300 potency things benefit from all the same effects, the answer is yes. The reason I say it like that is if you take... If the 600 potency GCD you say happens to be like the total damage of a dot, then the dot will benefit from spell speed or skill speed, which means that it'll do more damage than two 300 potencies. Unless they are also dots. How did the dungeon go? Well, we finished Yuweyawata Field Station with after 57 minutes. But the final boss was definitely the most challenging part. Yeah, from what I can see, I am guessing that M1N would be the only one. I mean, classically, someone else might have already done it, and I haven't checked. But I would assume that M1N is the most likely of the four to be soloable, and Warrior can't do it, from what I can see. But it turns out Paladin can. So my suggestion is soloing something else, but the question is what we should try. Extremes are pretty much not possible unless we, do them unsynced, and that's not particularly impressive, I don't think, most of the time. But there's a lot of dungeons that I never did synced. Should be able to at the end of the expansion. Yeah, probably. I could imagine that it might be possible to solo M1N in better gear. It's also possible if we have more tenacity that it would be doable. Oh, that doesn't matter, Matthew Park. P11N is barely doable and it's a journey and a half. Oh yeah, I do remember that. Well, the normal version. A bunch of Eden Savages doables unsynced, maybe some solo. I don't know. I don't know. This kind of stuff is actually the exact reason why in my journey of this challenge I basically only did dungeons. Because there was a much higher probability of it actually being possible going in without checking. Speaking of going in without checking, I don't think I've done Halatali since its rework. Didn't that get reworked recently? I think that was 7.1. The bosses got reworked. Right. If I remember correctly, do it as a DPS. You haven't done that solo for sure. I'm pretty sure I did the old version solo with, I'm pretty sure, Gunbreaker. Hey Lexi, hope you're doing well. Leah says, I wonder how doable others like P6 are. That one is soloable unsynced. I know both P5 and P6 are soloable unsynced, because I've done them. Because they were in my Wondrous Tales. I'm also pretty sure P7 is very doable. I'd imagine even P8 would be. Yeah, because I didn't want to use a second chance, and I was bored. That's often what I do on Tuesdays when I start my day, is I just go and do like... I actually did E10 for this one. Today. If we're still progging Ubu, Lexi, well, why not just Q? Leah, why would I solo Yuweyawata Field Station? Why would I solo Yuweyawata Field Station? I think it's really entertaining to solo something like that. The reason why I exactly go into this with like, I don't know, doing an old raid unsynced probably isn't super entertaining or impressive is because I do that off stream. Like, I'll just do that for the sake of it. But yeah, Cat says do it as a DPS. Could Halatali be soloed? Let me just do this. Could Halatali be soloed, synced as a DPS? Just synced. I'm not even saying minimizable, but just synced. Would that be possible with a DPS? Would it be possible, assuming you could get into it, to solo an alliance raid? Most alliance raids, in addition to having the requirement that you need at least 3 people to even enter, have various requirements that make it so that actually you don't just need 3, you need 12. I believe if you have the power, you might be able to solo the near, well, 3-man, the near raids. I remember in Endwalker, we tried to solo, well, not solo, 3-man copied factory. And I believe we didn't have the damage for a DPS check on Engels. So, like, that wouldn't be a problem now. But if you then translated that to can you solo it, I think the answer would be no, you don't have 3 times the damage you had in Endwalker as a tank. I imagine the jobs that would be most capable of soloing something like Halatali, if it has to be a DPS, would be either a ranged physical, because they can kite a lot better, summoner, because they have barrier and physic isn't completely useless in that level range, or it would be a DPS simply because they have self-healing from Bloodbath and Second Wind. Do we try with summoner? Getting out my stash of potions. I don't think I need all these, but I usually grab them all out because it looks nicer. Put on the all stats gear from achievements, it might even be trivial. I don't... Good news or bad news, I don't have that gear. But I think it'll be fine. We'll see. Whoops. I'm getting attacked by a bunch of copies. Oh! We do it like that. Yeah, the first boss in Dunscaith has a soft enrage, you could say. I'm also recognizing that I'm making this slightly harder for myself than it has to be. I'll show you what I mean when it becomes necessary. By the way, is this Doctorus toolkit the exact same as Bachman? Thoughts? Under the Armor boss is actually Trash Mob from Halatali? No, I'm not saying same model. He has a frontal cone attack and a damage buff. I'm pretty sure that is exactly what Bachman has. So yeah, I guess we have straight up Bachman, just as a trash mob. Feels a little different when it's when said trash mob isn't something that is considered particularly scary either, or the trash mob is essentially a like from a boss that wasn't particularly threatening in the first place. Uh-oh. It's a bomb! Ow. Shield me. You know what's really funny? If you run into that, it'll actually ask if you want to leave. That bomb has gas. Exactly, Ham. Ham is probably the person that is the most knowledgeable on Under the Armor, I think. This feels with a little bit higher stakes of the enemies hitting a bit harder, but this feels a little bit like low floors of Palace of the Dead. A little bit. The mobs take a little bit more of a beating. Hey Brontom! Hope you're doing well. The people that only watched me do Palace of the Dead soloing starting to realize why I run away in Palace of the Dead in a specific way. They're like, we now know where your mistakes are coming from. The plot thickens. Oh, we're already at the first boss? I have no idea how he works now, so... Since when do you have a tank buster, boy? What is this? I call shenanigans. I say shenanigans. What are you? I don't know why I'm specifically choosing in this as a guy. It's a fire. It's a flame. Kai's brain. He's a man. He's a man. Oh yeah, true. It's we have the tank buster and the pizza. Ow. I love getting interrupted, don't you? You know, the real fear is whether it's capable of critting. Because if it is capable of critting, we could just randomly die. Just when it decides to crit. Ta-da! Loot. Wow. Shame Summon and Arcanist doesn't have a dot yet. Well, anymore. I mean, Summon and Arcanist used to be... Like, I have a whole video on that topic. Summoner used to be basically a warlock from World of Warcraft, like, straight up. They, like, if you've played World of Warcraft, you would also go, wait a minute, when I say their first pet was ranged, their second pet was a tank, and the third pet was a melee DPS of some sort. Like, they straight up got, like, it was so close that the only thing missing was that their dots are named differently. Thank you, Erdl. Like, they of course got to be, like, their own thing, but genuinely, Summoner was a dot job, and then it suddenly, decided that it would be funny if it was not. Agent Monica says, I know this is off topic, but I was wondering why you had different music to me while in the garden. I realized it's because I had a setting that uses the city-states music in the residential areas. Oh. I kind of knew that that was an option, and I just never, like, truly decided on whether I wanted to use it. Bro, really? Got a bingo? We might have gotten a bingo. I still haven't needed to use my my little final out if things get too hard here. And I'm sure most of you already realize what that final out is. It's I have a sleep spell. I straight up have a sleep spell. So I can just choose to fight them one at a time if I want to. Seriously? Oink. Yeah, that's understandable, Jules. I will say Bane was worded really weirdly. So I can absolutely see it be very confusing. I also remember that when I got Bane, like my first job on this character was Arcanist. And then Summoner, is that I looked at it and thought, well, I mean, it's weaker dots. So maybe it's better that I spend the time to apply my dots for realsies instead of, like, wasting the ether flow bit, because it used to cost ether flow. So Bane, like, maybe it was better to just apply the dots manually so we have the better version of the dots. And also the ether flow to use Festa or something. Yeah, there is an actual bingo sheet that Nox has made, Leah, and I'm pretty sure that WoW is on it. Exactly because of your reaction. What are you? Are you a bomb? You're straight up loot. Fantastic. Ow. They have tank busters. Doctoral Tides, is that the new Under the Armor? Maybe. I believe it took 10 minutes to beat the first boss. You really take your time, huh? Boom. The Doctor Tides is what's under the armor. Oh! We finally figured it out! Dunk. I should really start to turn around a little earlier. We're wasting so much time running back. Chain, winch, 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 doink. Oh, loot. Oh. Yeah. Just soulstone up. Imagine if Summoner had soulstone. So you could preemptively rest someone. I don't know if it still works the same way it used to, but I'm not taking any chances. Oh! Ow. Uh-oh. Good call that I was spam healing myself preemptively. Imagine being a melee DPS on this fight, am I right? So the real fear here is, this is a Realm Reborn. It could be able to, it might be able to crit. So I take it only does damage when the cast finishes. That's apparently a ranged attack, everyone. No, rather, Midichlorian, the thing they did is that I believe it was after Stormblood that they decided that bosses shouldn't be able to crit. Because a lot of the time it just becomes, like, it doesn't lead to any interesting tactics, it just means that sometimes the tank just dies. So, like, it's not super fun to deal with. Remember when we had awareness? That's true. Back in the expansions, or the age where bosses could crit, there was a tank cooldown that made them uncrittable for a little bit. Still, that ultimately just boils down to you can say no sometimes. But most of the time you just have to eat it. Is physic worse when you sink down since it scales off of mind? That is correct. Physic would probably be better if I actually had, you know, legit low-level gear with mind on it. I'm not sure, Taldemar. I just know that it's only after Stormblood that you're actually safe. Leah says, I don't think that bosses crit a single time. That might be. Maybe when they rework the old content, they remove the capacity to crit. Come on, crit me, make me wrong. Prove to me that I'm wrong. I know you can do it. Yeah, 1! What a barrier can do. Yeah, I thought the same. I was like... Very exact. It exactly beat the barrier. Oh, the Hammerbeak missed. Wow. That's loot. Now this will be interesting. I think that's a I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's a weaker tank buster than the lizard. I think. Oh no. Oh no. Here's what we call a problem. Are you serious? Ow. Plain pound? Oh. Oh boy, that took everything. Like, actually everything. Ow. I'm intentionally just not using anything, because I think I'll need it. And if he keeps just doing plain pound until I reach another health threshold, then like, I'm not in a hurry. I have like an hour. Like, we're good. But it does help quite a lot to have everything locked and loaded when the ads come in. Because there's so many. Ow. Ow. Okay, it's close to the exact same damage as the other boss, I think. If you actually let him hit. If you let him smash. This reminds me of soloing dungeons as Scholar. Still no? We passed 50%. It's not time for ward? Okay. He only does shield twice? I mean, on the normal, like on the old version, he would do this, the ward that he's already done, twice. And then he would do like, essentially like an even bigger one where he like inflames himself at the end. So whatever the case, if this is what we're doing, I'm gonna stall as long as it takes. Although I do recognize that my MP is actually dropping a little bit. But if I needed to stall my MP, then I could just stop attacking. You did twice close to each other. Yeah, that's exactly why I thought it was like an HP threshold thing. And yeah, the reason why I'm not using my potions is also because if he decides suddenly that he wants some more minions, then having the potion to heal up between hits is really handy. But I need to know, when is he gonna do it? Nope. Is it now? Nope. Still just a plain pound. This would probably have been a lot easier if I had some gear with mind on it, huh? I do have a good pound, but this is getting excessive. Yeah, he's got a lot of plain pounds. It's not even good pounds, it's just plain pounds. And that was why I kept my potion, although the potion's cooldown is very short. For a moment I thought he was going to like just surprise me with, actually there is a last thing I have. Turns out, no. Doink. Exactly, Brown Tom. This is the first time I've done the reworked version. So this was a case of I had to guess what the mechanics were. But yeah, if you're ignoring the little embers there, you're dead. They did what, like 190 damage per one that reached the boss. The small ones, I don't even know what the big ones do. And consider that I remember that the Fire Main, the first boss, had those embers come in too, but they were so weak in the old version that you just ignored them. And while you didn't quite ignore them on this boss, it was more because he was invulnerable and no one else could kill, like, the big ad in time, so whatever, right? Or rather, no one could hit, like, not everyone could hit it. It would just die, like, so it was better to have, like, spread out your efforts while the boss was invulnerable. That was interesting. I didn't even need to use sleep. The final boss with Grand Company Squadron is god-awful. Oh. How is it with duty support? Is it better with duty support? But that is weird that the boss just did, like, he had a mechanic and he just did it twice and it was like, well. That's boring. Dal says, I would imagine so. They would do the mechanics on their own instead of needing to be told. Probably. The thing is, Grand Company Squadrons are really weird. I can't, you know, demonstrate it now because the dungeon was changed, but in the old version of Bravelock's Longstop, the final boss, the dragon, the way it worked, just so that everyone's on the same page, the way it worked is that it would regularly target a random player. I'm pretty sure it could be anyone. And then basically fire a spread marker on them, like a circle AoE, which would leave behind a poison puddle, which you of course didn't want to stand in because it hurts. But it healed the dragon if they stood in it. It didn't heal so much that it was a problem, like a party of 4 could fight through one of those. It was really annoying though, so it was best to move the dragon out of it. Now, that's particularly annoying if the dragon chooses to target the tank, or a melee DPS that doesn't, like, move out of the way. When I went for the achievement of completing 10 dungeons with the Grand Company Squadron, I think I did Bravelock's Longstop like 8 times, and not once, not a single time did the dragon target anyone but me with that spread. Like, it was only you. Or only me, rather. Like, it was as if the Grand Company Squadron didn't exist. Which led me to believe that the way they have fixed, quote-unquote, the problem that the Grand Company Squadron doesn't really know how to deal with mechanics, as it were, is to make sure that any mechanic that they can choose, like, that can choose a target, will not target the squadron if it can choose someone else. I don't know how consistent that is. Because there's one boss that I use as evidence. But it makes sense. It's a common problem with units that, like, are sort of brain dead. Because, exactly, Darth. Darth says, that sounds correct. They're almost immune to AoE damage, but the healing was for sure an issue. Yeah. Apparently, so some of you may have heard of the summoner tank Ramu Extreme. thing from back in the day. So I talked about this a little bit when we just did the dungeon, but long story short, Summoner's Titan Eggy was straight up a tank. As in, it wasn't like tanky tank, but it was, you know, it had defense, and I'm pretty sure it also had like a tank cooldown. It did extra enmity, so like it could hold aggro. You probably had to be careful with that, but it could hold aggro. But pets took like 90% less damage from AoE. And Shock Strike, as you may know, can kill players around the tank. Even if the tank has, you know, collected orbs. Which means that it's an AoE attack. Like, technically, it's an AoE attack. So, Titan Eggy could tank that without orbs or anything. It just take it in the face, just boom. And it was fine. So apparently that worked as a strategy. But since Shadowbringers, that has not been an option, because in Shadowbringers, pets lost the ability to have enmity of their own and HP of their own, so like they couldn't aggro anything. In fact, that meant that you could send a pet up in the face of an enemy without pulling it, because as far as the game was concerned, the pet is more like an extension of the summoner, and it's like a ghostly apparition that can do things. Which meant that, like, if you used Ifrit, you would probably have it, like, up in the face of the boss so that it didn't have to run to the boss on pull and things like that. That's also why I back then, my raid team jokingly referred to the Ruby Kabi, because of course I changed it to that, was referred to as the negotiator. Because if we were, like, talking tactics, like, my Ruby Kabi would be, like, over on the other end of the arena, like, just hanging out with the boss. Just, I don't know, arguing or conversing, who knows? Maybe it was like trying to make a deal. Look, if you don't hurt that one over there, yeah, the summoner, I'll give you like 5 gil. Huh? How's that sound? I don't know. There's a new one, not enough seals to commence mission. Well, I mean, maybe a manatee will do. Or maybe a sea lion. Really unfair that they only allow you to use seals. Payra says, the squadron has no idea how to handle the ads. And you have to micromanage them really hard. Yeah, that sounds about what I expected. I prefer dugongs. Cat says, I do like how the dungeon is essentially a tutorial for move back after a bad resolves. Oh yeah. You know, it would work better as a tutorial, quote-unquote, for that if it wasn't an optional dungeon, right? But that is an excellent point. Imagine it... Well, see, that's actually an interesting thing. Speaking of tutorials, is that... So somewhat recently, I put out a video called Guild Tests, A Lost Opportunity. And I gave various, I gave suggestions as to why don't they make the guild test a little bit more challenging. Maybe add a little bit to them so that the things that they're actually trying to teach can be taught. But also so that the duty is a little bit more interesting. And... Ha! Is that best in slot? Is that technically best in slot? That is pretty funny. It is, however, also an interesting outfit. Thank you. Something you can get. Oh, true. Thanks. The hat is definitely best in slot. But a bunch of people responded to that video saying there's no need to make it more interesting. They're literally tutorials. As long as they teach the thing they need to, it's fine. The problem there, of course, being that they generally don't teach you anything because they're that easy. But the additional thing was they also teach things that doesn't really matter anymore. So, who cares? But the argument being that because it is tutorial content, it doesn't matter that it is not interesting or challenging in the slightest. However, I just want to say counter-argument to that. The existence of this means that it is not only meant to be a tutorial, it is also meant to be content. Like, as in, it is meant to be... Why? What in the world? What's happening with healers tonight? Healer in need, apparently. And 2 DPS in need. What happened? Did tanks fall off? Oh, never mind. Never mind. But my point being that the existence of this means that guild hests are meant to be replayed, and tutorials are not meant to be replayed unless you need the lesson again. So I would say the presence of this suggests that the duty should be interesting in its own right, in my opinion. In addition to that, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is exactly that, Cat's point that Halatali is a reasonably good tutorial of move away when the bad happens. Is if we start looking at the early dungeons as tutorials, we, like, players might start to have the same kind of dismissive perspective to these duties of it doesn't matter that they're basically memed on because they're tutorials, who cares? But they're not. And maybe looking at them as not tutorials or introductory dungeons would be nice, because it would mean that it would make more sense to make them a little bit more challenging. I'm not saying that it needs much. I'm just saying that Halatali is a step in the right direction. And I'm shocked that Sastasha received nothing of the sort, and Tantara received nothing of the sort. And I mean, Copperbell Mines got a little bit of it. Like, it also has, like, expanding AoEs, I believe. Like, I'm not saying that they need to be super hard. I'm just saying that, you know, Sastasha could actually use the treatment that Copperbell Mines got. Maybe a little bit more, in fact. Like, Copperbell Mines could use a little bit more. But... And this is also something that we saw a little bit with M1N. I haven't done M1N as a tank for months, I don't think. Maybe as a DPS. So I haven't really noticed how insanely easy it is when you really think about it. Like, it's not that easy, but the amount of time it takes for her to perform the 1-2 paw is kind of funny. Pedro says guild tests and Hall of the Novice honestly just need to be gutted and redone entirely. Patch jobs don't help extremely outdated out-leveled content. I'm just saying, and I said this in the video as well, most of the guild tests, while still insanely dated, could actually turn around and be mildly interesting content if you you could double the HP on most of the mobs in any guild hast, and it would probably change nothing. Like, as in, the duty would still be beatable very easily. You could probably triple or quadruple the HP of them to have them survive long enough for something to happen. And the damage output of the enemies could probably be increased to actually, you know, justify forcing you to sit there for that much longer. Like, consider that if you quadrupled the HP of Buckman in Under the Armor, it would take about 2 minutes instead of 30 seconds. And if all the mobs did a little bit more damage, then you would probably have to actually kill the skeletons. Which would mean that their HP being, you know, quadrupled as well would actually pose a problem, which would mean that it might take 3, 4, even 5 minutes. The very first guild test attempts to teach you to single pull. The content isn't so much the problem as the lesson. In that case, yeah, the lesson is strange. I would say, while the lesson in enemy parties is to single pull, the presentation of that lesson still works. Because that, if the packs were stronger, Para, consider that the packs in enemy parties, there are 2 of them, they allow you to pull 2 packs. Which means that without, by just changing the wording, they could use that as a lesson in, well, I mean, if you can take 2 packs, then take 2 packs. Like, they just need to adjust the numbers, and then they have a modern tutorial. Granted, the second pull with the Gobu doesn't really... Like, that is more about fighting the big guy, right? But... And then there are ads you should probably focus, but... It is a weird lesson. But that's also what I mean, is that if you buff up the enemies in that duty, in those duties, you can change it to be more about the duty than about the lesson. Matthew Park says, I'm surprised that under 50 content doesn't give vuln stacks and getting hit by avoidable attacks. I would say most of the time those avoidable attacks hurt a lot. Cat says tutorial doesn't mean bad. Correct. Teaching in games is best when it isn't noticed. I'd say Halatali is a good example of this. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Is what I'm saying is that the enemy parties can be 2 lessons in one. If the enemies actually matter, then it is, the first lesson is sometimes it'll be an option to pull 2 packs. And then you can choose to do that. The second lesson is, if there's a big guy, maybe focus the small guys. Like, maybe deal with the ads in a boss fight. Even if the ads are there at the start. And that's a helpful lesson for Sastasha, because the second and third boss both start with ads on the field. Like, that works, kind of, right? Caroline says, when you die in Palace Floor 196 because of one mistake, is it unnoticed? Wait, what do you mean? Unnoticed? Hey Joshua, hope you're doing well. That really sucks, Caroline. An unnoticed tutorial. I don't know, Palace Floor 196. Well, what was the mistake? Because I don't think that's necessarily a tutorial then. Like, at that point you've moved way past tutorials, right? Panels of the Dead is not the teaching, it's the test. There you go. But that's actually something that I've brought up multiple times, is that part of the problem with Hall of the Novice is that its test is bad. Like, most of the Hall of the Novice sections present a specific lesson and then don't test you on it. And some of those could also be resolved quite easily. Like, I can't remember what the actual lesson is, but one of the healer ones has you and a tank fight another tank. And if your tank is healthy, the teacher will tell you that you could attack if it's safe to do so. Like, it'll straight up tell you you could attack in a text. Would be nice if it was voiced, right? But if you don't attack, if you just straight up don't attack, like you just don't, you will also notice that the enemy tank will frequently use a potion. Like every so often he'll use a potion when he can like benefit from the full heal of it. But your tank does enough DPS to outpace that potion. Like, just barely. So you will eventually win. Which is to say, if they made that potion heal for like 20% more, then you would be forced to attack to succeed the lesson. The moment the tank takes one hit, the instructor starts yelling at you to heal. That would explain why there are some healers that think they need to heal whenever anyone is not fully topped up. Checking an unnecessary chest that happened to be a mimic. Oh, that is the worst, Caroline, and I have done that too many times too. On floor 190. I feel like I'm going to guess that you might have been a bit low on Pomanders to do that. You might have done the move that I did and on the previous stream, where I ran up to a chest like, I hope this is something good because I need something good, and then it's a mimic. And it died, and it gave me like 3 potions that I didn't need. Like, I feel like that's where it happens. When you're so down on your luck that you need the chest, and you need it to be good, and then it's a mimic again. But yeah, with that said, can a warrior solo Yuweyawata field station synced? Yes. In 57 minutes, so there's actually good time to spare. I would wager, without checking, that Paladin can too. I think it is a possibility that Gunbreaker can too, but it is possible it can't. Dark Knight might also be capable of doing it, but if there's one that can't do it, then it would probably be Dark Knight. Additionally, can Summoner solo the new Halatali synced? Yes. You don't even need Sleep, the spell, to do it. But that would make it a lot easier. Like, basically, every time I fought a pack with more than one mob in it, I could have just ran up and cast Sleep, and then just fought one enemy off, and then, like, run up, fight the next enemy, and when the last mob comes over, sleep that guy again, and then continue to fight the single enemy, and make it way easier for myself. But I didn't even need that, because kiting is OP. While take could healer attacks not feeling powerful be an issue, Doses feels lame, Panheimer feels awesome. Maybe, but I don't think that that's the reason, Matthew Park. Because the thing is, a lot of players, from what I've seen, make the claim that healers do no damage with 0 research. As in, they didn't check. They just concluded that healers probably don't do a lot of damage, let that simmer in their mind for long enough, and then forgot why they thought that. As in, they think healers probably don't do a lot of damage. Then they don't discuss it with anyone. Then after a while, they forget who said that healers basically do no damage, why they think that, and then they assume, instead of remembering that they themselves put that thought in their mind, they think that that's just the truth, and then they'll say that. It is very frequent that people make that claim, that what's the point in me attacking? I don't do any damage anyway. For comparison's sake, healers, even if they only did a third of the damage a DPS does, and at times that could be the case, that's still a lot. VX says it's just a self-report. They deal no damage when playing healer because they don't attack. Ronsom says, watching solo only use Gunbreaker often in the challenge run really opened my eyes to how tanking works. Till then I just assumed only warrior heals enough. Well, yeah, it's complicated. There's also the part that warrior, like, their bloodwetting being a huge part of the healing can kind of lock them up in needing to use that. Yahara says, I don't know what you would be doing other than your attacks as healer. Like, you don't constantly need to spam your GCD heals, and what are you gonna do, let your GCD drop? Oh, it's very simple, Yaharas. If, for a moment, and consider this, for Glare, just to take White Mage for instance, for Glare to be pointless, the people saying that White Mage, that healers basically do no damage, probably don't quite understand how potencies work. Or they assume that it's not comparable. Because 340 potency times 1.3. It's at the very least closer to like 430 potency. If not 440 potency. The average filler GCD of a tank is less than that. And tanks also have their negative multiplier on damage, so 20% less, just baked in. But if, for a moment, we assumed that healers did, I don't know, basically 0 damage, right? If we just assume that for a moment, then you know what's really handy for survival in your team? I don't know, that's like 20% of my HP? Just 20% heal every GCD? That's pretty good. So you can just save the GCDs. That's also why in my video on... I can't remember if it was tips for healers or mistakes healers make, but I pointed out that the purpose of your OGCDs is to save you from spending GCDs on healing. It's not the purpose of the GCD heals to save you from spending OGCD heals. Like, if you're spamming Cure, you're probably doing that either because you're out of options or because you're trying to avoid using Tetragrammaton. And if you're using Cure to avoid using Tetragrammaton, the only good excuses there is you don't have any more Tetragrammatons. Like, you're using Cure because you ran out. Or you know that if you use Tetragrammaton now, then you will be missing it for something in a moment that you know is happening. Like, you know that you're gonna need it. So if you use it now, there'll be a problem. But when is that? Never, basically. Hey Tristan, hope you're doing well. We beat it in 57 minutes. We also tried M1N. We came to the conclusion that Warrior probably can't solo M1N. There's too many stack markers, but it turns out Paladin can, although we didn't try. We also soloed Halatali, synced, as a summoner. And thank you so much for celebrating 16 months as part of the Cult of the Pink, Tristan. Another month, another pink candy. From Poland this time. Oh, thank you so much. Matthew Park says, why doesn't the game update potency to reflect actual value from buffs? There are there's a few reasons why that could be. Relatively speaking, potencies are helpful for comparing things. So something that has 200 potency is twice as strong as something that does 100 potency. You don't need to add the multipliers to see that. The only time it matters that Maim and Mend exists is if you compare White Mage, for instance, to a job that does not have Maim and Mend. That's when it matters. But if you're comparing White Mage to a job that also has Maim and Mend, then same seas, right? Also, thank you for celebrating 11 months, Bronto. Thank you so much. Yeah, it says, I guess it comes from a lack of understanding how healers actually function practically, which leads to that sort of preconceptions to occur. Yeah, there's also the part that I'm pretty sure Final Fantasy XIV is the weird one in MMOs. Like the thing is, Final Fantasy XIV is the odd MMO where healers are expected to attack all the time. As far as I know. So if you came to the game from basically any other MMO, being told that you're supposed to be attacking all the time and that you're weird for not thinking that or not realizing that, is a pretty big surprise, I could imagine. I think the reason why it came somewhat naturally for me is partly because in those other MMOs, you usually have the option to play that class as a damage dealer, for instance. So when you put all your eggs in the healing basket, your damage will be terrible. Whereas in Final Fantasy XIV, if White Mage is incapable of doing damage, how are they supposed to complete the game? Right? Like, how are you supposed to do it? Like, if healers specifically, whenever they got an MSQ solo duty, like, you know, the echo buffs that you get. If healers like just were put on the field with a servant to attack for them, whenever they needed to fight something without other players, then I could see it. Then it would make sense. Because then they could balance healers to basically do no damage, because they're never put in a situation where they don't have like a squire to fight for them. But that's not how it works. For those curious, cleric stance clearly, oh yeah, true. For those curious, the echo buffs you get in solo duties work differently depending on what role you are. You may have noticed in solo duties that if you're a tank or a DPS, every 3 seconds you get like a heal. Like that's like just green numbers popping out of you from the unknown. Just every few seconds you heal a bunch. If you're not a healer, your echo buffs will give you passive healing all the time to compensate for the fact that you might not have any yourself. If you're not a tank, the echo buff gives you a significant damage reduction so that they're certain that you can take the hits that a tank would be able to take in case your job wouldn't be capable of doing that on their own. And if you're not a DPS, then your echo buff makes you do way more damage, because if your job doesn't do a lot of damage, then they might not be capable of meeting the DPS requirement that a DPS would be able to. That's also the reason why there are certain solo duties in Endwalker that were really easy for certain jobs and really hard for others. Because of these differences, it's usually DPS checks. Leah says, I'd wager that if the average person saw that the filler tag of a healer did 440 potency, every single one of them, you as a DPS would feel rather miffed looking at your 420 potency gecko, right? It's actually pretty funny. Just the other day, I did some numbers on Viper and Samurai in Sastasha. There's a video coming out where I'll also show it off. It's pretty funny, I think. So in Sastasha, Viper's toolkit is this, and this. And they all do 280 potency once you've done 1 GZD. The long story short is that Viper does approximately, with auto attacks included, 152.2 potency per second. Per second. Now, that doesn't mean much, but a Black Mage casting Fire 1 in Sastasha, because of cast attacks adding 0.1 extra second to it, does 96.9 potency per second. As in, Viper is fully mobile and does like 2/3 more damage than a Black Mage on single target. Now, I also said Samurai. Samurai in Sastasha has Hakase, Jinpu, and Shifu as the significant GCDs. And it averages, with auto attacks included, and actually auto attacks are a little bit more value for Samurai because they have 2 buffs instead of just 1, 144 potency per second. Togna says, are potencies comparable like that between different jobs though? Yes, they are. If you actually include everything, every multiplier, then yes, they are. As in, I have in my Mythbuster series demonstrated on video that if Samurai uses an attack with the same potency as a warrior, for instance, and they have the same stats, like the same strength stat, the same determination, warrior will do exactly 20% less damage than a samurai because tanks have an innate 20% damage loss just baked in. All of their attacks are 20% weaker. But you need to make sure to count everything. Which means that you have to count things like an invisible, baked-in 20% damage loss on tanks, for instance. And for healers, you have to make sure that you count this. And note that these don't stack. This turns into this. So it's just 30%. Things like that. You need to count all of it. Then they're comparable. What's the potency of a melee auto attack? 30 potency per second. Which is to say, you check your swing timer, that is the delay here. A white mage's auto attack with this weapon takes 3.44 seconds to swing, which means that you take 30 potency and multiply it by 3.44, and that is the potency of a white mage auto attack. Although, casters scale their auto attacks with strength, which is the reason why, like, I don't know, 105 or so potency amounts to this. What? 2 crits in a row. But basically, the only job where this actually really matters, like where it actually made a difference, was Paladin. After the rework. Because when you cast a spell, I also talk about this in some of my videos, when you cast a spell, your auto attack timer is paused until the slide casting window, which is about half a second before the cast finishes, which means that Holy Spirit pauses your swing timer for 1 second. Exactly 1 second. Which means that if you cast Holy Spirit without Divine Might, without Requiescat, so it has a cast timer, then it comes at a 30 potency loss. Because 30 potency per second. And you're delaying your auto attack by exactly 1 second. So Holy Spirit in practice is actually only 370 potency. In Endwalker, when the rework initially happened, it's still 1 second instance. If you use something with no cast time, it does not delay your auto attack at all. But in Endwalker, right when rework happened, the fact that Holy Spirit essentially cost 30 potency to use was the reason why Holy Spirit was not worth using. unless you needed the range. Like, just hard casting Holy Spirit was this close to be part of the optimal rotation, and then people realized that, wait a minute, you're losing auto attacks. You're also losing Oath Gauge. You realize Paladin has the shortest auto attack. That's an additional little fun fact. Paladin is also the only job that actually generates something from the auto attacks, because they generate Oath Gauge. Before Shadowbringers, I believe, ninjas also generated Ninki with their auto attacks. You're not saying rework at 6-3 at the start of it. I mean, I said the rework of Endwalker, which would be 6-3. Matthew Park says, I'd be curious to know which class, I guess you mean which job, gets the most out of one potency. It's not a tank, because they already do 20% less. They're basically on the back foot already. Ranged physical do 20% more damage just out the box. Casters do 30% more out the box. Is that it? Black... Oh, that's true. It would be Black Mage. Enochian and Maim and Mend. And if that one potency is fire magic... Oh, that is big brain, Ilana. An instant would delay your auto attacks by -0.5 seconds. Yeah, is there any spell with a 1 second cast still? Ishuna used to have it. But I don't think there is anyone left now, is there? Yeah, that is an interesting point. Anyway, as I was saying a little bit ago, just as a little summary, Yuweyawata Field Station, soloable by a warrior in 57 minutes, almost definitely soloable by a paladin too, possibly soloable by a gunbreaker, might not be soloable by a dark knight, but not gonna write it off without like, I'd like to see it, and I can imagine that if I said it wasn't possible, there would be someone saying, well, you said, and then demonstrate that it actually is possible. That would be the classic. M1N does not appear to be soloable by a warrior, but it appears that it is soloable by a paladin. Halatali normal is soloable synced by a summoner. The new Halatali. You don't even need to use sleep. Joshua says, did you try with Paladin? I did not. I concluded that I'm not experienced enough in soloing content with Paladin to do it. So I would just try a bunch and then be like, well, I can't. But we know it is possible because someone else has done it. Specifically with Paladin. Aerodel checked. With that said, if you enjoyed this particular stream, it helps me a lot if you leave a like on it here on YouTube. It tells the algorithm this was an enjoyable stream, and like other people to enjoy it as well, so thank you so much in advance. Who knows, maybe other people also want to see whether Yuweyawata Field Station is soloable with a warrior. And if you'd like to be part of the Discord community server, there's a link in the chat right there. There, you'll find the weekly schedule where you could see what else is coming up in the coming days. I usually update it Sunday or Monday. You'll also find the announcement room with links to videos and streams when they put them out. And if you grab the reminder roll in the role assignments room, you'll get a notification whenever I post a video or stream, as well as an extra one around 15 minutes before stream starts, so you don't miss a second. And if you'd like to support the channel even more directly, you can become a member of the channel, you can gift memberships, you can use the super chat system, or if you don't like any of that, there's a Ko-Fi link in the description where you can also support the channel. It also helps support me and the channel directly so that I can focus on doing stuff like this with all of you. So thank you so much for the support. But that'll be it from me tonight. So good night, good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending where you are in the world, and I hope to see you all very soon. Bye bye!